Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another fantastic episode from Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable Discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the use and the reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That's BIPCOT.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969. Which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable Discussion is entirely hypothetical. This is episode 219, and no, Chris, we are not late because I did schedule it for 6:05. Not at 6. I'm learning. So
we beat the system.
Hashtag lawyered.
Yeah. Hacker man.
Yep. Went live with like 15 seconds before we were supposed to be on. So there, suck it. But yes, it's just Andrew and I tonight. Chris had a baby.
He did.
He had another little anarcho baby. So Chris is probably changing diapers right now.
Meanwhile, we're here.
Yay.
Living the dream.
Woo. Being professionals. Like and so professional. This is our I'm doing air quotes, professional. Like, so I send the guys links of what we're going to talk about. I'll keep one aside that I don't tell them about so I can spring it on them. And Andrew goes and just says he didn't read the links. He just skimmed the headlines so that he could decide which patch to wear.
Because that's what professionals do. All right. It's wardrobe coordination. See, and it all ties in, man.
It's propaganda.
Well, how can I propagandize if I don't know what I need to propagandize about? See, so.
Exactly. Everything is propaganda, right? That's what paraphrasing was it Freud?
I have
Not
no
Freud.
idea.
Who was Goebbels' teacher?
Oh, I don't remember who the hell Goebbels learned from. I don't know. There's a documentary that keeps popping up in my suggested stuff on one of my documentary streaming services about Goebbels. And...
Yeah. But yeah, everything is propaganda. So even the patches. So, yeah.
Apparently his favorite teacher in school was Elsie Yankee, a Jewish teacher in Raint.
Yeah.
So
has Tom McDonald stuck in your head. Well, it's tough shit for you, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, apparently that didn't work out well.
That seems to be everyone's favorite Canadian. Tom McDonald's Canadian.
Yeah, I know. Canadians, they walk among us undetected. Yeah. Like maple syrup, Canada's evil oozes into the United States. Unchecked.
Okay. I watched a video. It showed up. I'm a big Super Troopers fan. Big Super Troopers fan. And the scene where they're chugging the maple syrup, right? That's real maple syrup that they're really chugging.
Yeah, they just watered it down with some distilled water to thin it out so that it would flow better. But otherwise, yeah, that is he absolutely had to chug an entire bottle of maple syrup.
No. They had to do it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that's why that scene
it was 4 or 5 times, and they recorded it early in the morning. And he said when they broke for lunch, the two of them went into the trailer and turned off the lights and laid there and just vibrated.
Well, I know that like when that one scene where he's like, wow, at the end of it is because it was like the last take and he's actually just like, oh. My favorite though of those is from the set of Grandma's Boy. So if you've ever seen Grandma's Boy, right, there's the actor Dante who plays the character Dante is, is like this weed dealer, right? And he in it, like apparently on set, like Nick Swardson was on there. Nick Swardson tells this story, and he goes that Dante came up to him and was like, "Nick, dude, they gave me fake pot, but check this out." Ha ha. And he had like this just like a pound of weed. And he's like, "Oh, that's probably not a good idea, Dante," because he's like, "Dude, this is a movie. We're going to have to film this scene 8 or 9 times. So you're going to have to sit here and rip off of this gravity bong endlessly 8 or 9 times." Yeah. So he said by the end of the day, he came up to him. He's like, "Dude, I can't feel my face right now. I forgot how to read."
That's like Knoxville, Sean William Scott, and Willie Nelson on the set of Dukes of Hazzard. It was like that too.
Oh, I believe you get those 3 together. I freaking believe it. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
that is why they smoke fake pot for movies. It isn't because, oh no, we don't want the actors smoking real pot. It's because we're going to have to do this take repeatedly, and eventually they're going to be so stoned that they are unable to control their bowels.
Yeah, no, that would be yeah. So, anywho, you want to just jump into it? We have like 2 articles that are going to take a long time, so let's just jump into it. Before we get going, though, let's jump into it. But before we get going, I came across an article but like 15 minutes ago that we have to share, and it's ex-LMPD, that's Louisville Municipal Police Department officer who fired shots that killed Breonna Taylor, hired by another police department.
Of course.
Yes, Miles Cosgrove has been hired by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office in Kentucky, according to the department's chief deputy.
And Cosgrove, of course, it was still in the American South.
Cosgrove was one of the officers who shot Breonna Taylor in a botched 2020 raid on her apartment while serving a no-knock warrant. Officials said his shot, Cosgrove's shot, is the one that killed her. He was hired as sheriff's deputy on Thursday, April 20th, and that he is already on active duty. So
he can go out and shoot some other innocent person.
Yes.
Because police have no accountability whatsoever in the United States.
Nope. So, but he's no longer in Tennessee. I mean, I guess that's whatever, but.
Well, good for Tennessee. They at least ran him out, but.
Yeah. So he's in Carroll County. That's Carroll with two R's and 2 L's. Carroll County, Kentucky.
My guess is that's right on the border with Tennessee.
I don't know. I have a smartphone in my hand. I can look it up.
To the Googles. We really need a Jamie.
I am a Jamie.
You just be like, look that up.
Yeah. Let's see. That's kind of centrally located.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Kentucky. I know that there's a county called Harlan in the east part of Kentucky.
Population's 10,863. So nice small county.
Mm-hmm. So that he can kill people in the middle of nowhere and get away with it.
Yes. So, let's see. How do I segue from that?
I mean, that's one of those things, though, too, that like we talk about that all the time with like gypsy cops, right? Mm-hmm. Where they get in trouble in one department, and then because nothing actually prevents them from getting the job elsewhere, they just move to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one.
The Boise, Idaho sheriff used to be a deputy lieutenant. I think it was a lieutenant here in Antioch, where I'm at. He was just named in a lawsuit along with 48 of the 100 police officers here in Antioch in a lawsuit because someone leaked all the racial, bigoted, etc. text messages that they had in this big group chat. So
what
like
a shock. Cops
yeah.
are racist? No,
Yeah,
but all
so
of these neocons assured me repeatedly.
so yeah, 46 of the 100 officers in my city are currently under state and federal investigation. 46 of the 100 in my city are currently under federal and state investigation.
Nearly half.
Nearly half. Yes. Yes. Including officers that have already like left the department. Like there's some in Alameda, and then the sheriff in Boise, and a few other ones. But yeah.
Again, gypsy cops, man. That's what they do, because there's no like national database for police complaints.
Well, there's still no real accountability at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's no accountability, but I mean, even if you had just something where a police department or a sheriff's department could then look up what the previous employment, if there were any complaints against them or any civil rights lawsuits or anything else. But I mean, like, don't forget that the guys that beat Kelly Thomas to death sued to get their jobs back.
Yes, they didn't, thankfully, but Kim Potter, the Minnesota police officer who fatally shot Dante Wright, right? She's the one, I was reaching for my taser, and shot him in the back.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting out of jail already. Like, she was like already getting out of jail. So
can you imagine if a civilian had done the same thing, right? And been like, oh, I thought I was grabbing a pepper spray, and I accidentally grabbed my pistol and I shot him in the back.
Yeah, so sentenced to 2 years in jail on February 22nd, or on February 2022. She was sentenced to 2 years, February 2022, convicted of the first and second degree manslaughter in the April 11, 2021 slaying of Wright. So 2 years after she killed him, she's already getting out of jail.
2 years
after she killed him. Yes. The February 2022 is when she was convicted.
I remember a statistic though.
But that's how it was here too. With I don't know if you remember Oscar Grant. Oscar Grant, he's the one that New Year's Eve they was kind of drunk. There was a fight on the BART, and they were trying to arrest him. And Johannes Meserly shot him in the back, point blank, with the gun. He said he was reaching for his taser. Johannes Meserly shot him in the back, and then Meserly freaked out and ran to Vegas. And they brought him back, and they sentenced him to like, I think 2.5 years on manslaughter, and he did like 14 months. Yeah. So
it's freaking ridiculous. Like, because there's, and we covered that at the time too, right? Where there's no way you confused those two. You knew what you were grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the weight is incredibly different. They're on opposing sides of your duty belt intentionally.
Yeah.
Like there's a million reasons, and like there's even like half of the cops in the country where like there's no way that happens. Like they didn't even support her. That's really, at the end of the day, that's largely the reason why she saw punishment, is because even the Thin Blue Line gang wouldn't rally around her.
Well, it's not. It's like with Ryan Whitaker shooting, right, in Arizona, or the Daniel Shaver shooting in Arizona. They were rallied around also. The cops that killed the homeowner in New Mexico. Right, their lawyers already standing on that one, going, "Oh no, they're completely innocent. They're doing their job." Blah 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 blah. Right, they're going to get off too. No.
Yep. Yeah, Donut in the chat. Donut would probably defend it. Yeah, I mean, in that case, he did even defend that one. Even what's his name? Angry whatever, that guy.
Yeah,
that fucking pisses me off all the time. He was an MP, by the way, so that should tell you a lot about his personality.
Philando Castile. There's another shooting that the cops absolutely rallied around.
Yeah, they did. They totally did, and it was ridiculous because like they rallied around it initially, right? Knee-jerk reaction. They rallied around that, and then all these things started coming out where it was like he was a legal concealed carrier. Minnesota has no even duty to inform, which is something to remember. Like if you're going to conceal carry in your state, you need to know, do you have a duty to inform or not? Because if you don't mention it.
Yep.
Just don't say anything for your safety. Shot. Yeah, because you'll get shot. It's, you know, I mean, like that's one of those realities you have to face as a concealed carrier, is that just merely having that weapon, regardless of the color of your skin. Now, if you're white, you're less likely to get shot in the encounter, but you're still pretty highly likely to get shot in the encounter. Let's be honest.
Unless you're on your hands and knees and trying to pull up your shorts.
Yeah.
Or you come to the door with the gun.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's the thing, though, is like, if you're a concealed carrier, you need to face the reality that every time you interact with a cop while you're concealed carrying, your life is in imminent danger.
Yes. Yeah. Which is just another reason to try to avoid getting in those situations in the first place.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I got pulled over the other day. That freaking sucked. But to be fair, my car is not exactly not noticeable when I'm speeding. But it was kind of bullshit. Thankfully, he only gave me a verbal warning. The cop was, I will hand it to that cop. He was pretty chill about everything. But
you see that video that kind of went viral of the
I'm the one who posted that in the chat. Where the guy's girlfriend calls him in the middle of him getting
on the Apple Watch, right? She calls through on the Apple Watch and talks to her, and she's like, "Why is there another girl there?" And the cop's like, "What?"
Yeah, the cop goes, "Ma'am, do you think I'm a female? Are you trying to send him to jail right now?"
And then he goes, FaceTime her. FaceTime. We got this. Go ahead, go, bro. FaceTime her.
FaceTime her.
He faced the dude FaceTimes his girlfriend, and the cop is talking to the girlfriend, and the cop goes, "All right, hang up," but he hangs up and he goes, "I don't want to talk to her anymore." And then the cop goes, "Okay, you got enough problems already with her. just slow it down on the way home."
Yeah, just don't be safe, be careful in the future.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give you a warning.
Because he's like, "Damn, bro, that bitch is nuts."
Yeah. That's psycho.
Yeah, that's the kind of chick, like, honestly, like, that's the kind of chick that, like, my first wife was, like, all the freaking day, man. All freaking day. There for legal reasons, I can't elaborate on ways I could have prevented anything from getting any worse, but nuts. And if your chick is that kind of nuts, leave. Just leave. Yeah. Don't hang around. Don't stick around. Leave.
Okay, where do you want to go to? Where do you want to start? I
don't know. Started. I mean, the whole reason I wore the patch that I did is because we have like nothing but gun related articles. So I think we should save those to go one from the other. So maybe the let's talk about the mortgages. I really want to talk about it because this one is relevant because I work in mortgages, right? Like we're not going to say.
All right, good. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. So Biden rule will redistribute high-risk loan costs to homeowners with good credit.
This is the dumbest freaking thing. Like,
it's not the dumbest.
This article,
it's not the dumbest. It's not the dumb, but it's up there.
This article is why I'm wearing the shirt I'm wearing.
Yes,
right here.
You have to explain your shirt.
It says I'm just here to kill commies.
Yes. Because communists are.
And I have my Slay Commies wristband on as well.
Oh, there you go.
Only you can prevent socialism.
Yeah. Smokey's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and nods.
Oh, you want to cast bronzes? Nice. That's real interesting. Face the wall, please.
So Biden rule will redistribute high-risk loan costs to homeowners with good credit. A Biden administration rule is set to take effect that will force good credit home buyers to pay more for their mortgages to subsidize loans to higher-risk borrowers. Experts believe that borrowers with a credit score of about 680 would pay about $40 more per month on a $400,000 mortgage under the rules from the Federal Housing Finance Agency that go into effect May 1st. Costs that will subsidize people with lower credit ratings also looking for a mortgage, according to the Washington Times report on Tuesday.
And it doesn't make any sense. This doesn't help anything. This won't actually help anything.
It penalizes you for having good credit.
It's not even, but I mean, it's not even just that it penalizes you that it's not going to help anything. It's that it literally none of what they're paying extra will actually help low credit borrowers.
Dave asks, what is a rule? Is that a law, executive order, whatnot? A rule is basically a self-governance because of the what is it? The Chevron.
Yeah. So what you have to remember is that mortgages are governed by a bureaucratic agency.
Yes.
Right. Which gets all of its power from Chevron for the most part, which means that because it's part of
Chevron, the ruling, not Chevron, the petroleum company.
Yeah. Although it was a ruling about the petroleum company. But anyway.
That's why it's called Chevron.
Yeah, Chevron deference.
Chevron deference.
If you're not sure what Chevron deference is, look it up and you will be just as pissed as I am that it exists. But anyway, so the basically what's happening is that because that's part of the executive branch, which is charged ostensibly with enforcing the spirit of the laws, the head of the executive branch is able to direct them to do specific things with their regulations, which they're allowed to do, a la the ATF.
Which is why the ATF can do the stabilizing brace and the EPA can do regulate how close you can build to a creek and all this other stuff. You know what books your kids have to learn, you know, in school, and it's the different
all of that stuff. That's why. So like what's going on here is that essentially what this governs then as a result of this is this governs the regulations that are going to be in place for required fees and things that are added on to mortgages, which are generally fairly limited. I mean, there's not a lot of them, but they're there. And this primarily only affects Fannie and Freddie conforming mortgages. So it's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who you'll remember from 2008 are basically just government loans, even though they're not technically government loans. It also governs FHA. It governs, I think it governs the USDA ones. It governs, it might govern VA. Don't quote me on that, but it might. If you do like WIDA, if you're in Wisconsin and a few other states have them, it'll also govern those. Like any secondary market stuff, and then the prime Fannie Freddie stuff.
Yeah, HUD loans, Chris says. So yeah, basically, it penalizes people for doing well, and for not having any debt, and for having a decent credit score, having a good credit score. You're getting, you did well. Here's a penalty.
Yeah, it says
you're not doing as good. Here's a subsidy.
Yeah, it says experts believe the borrowers with a credit score of about 680 would pay around $40 more per month on a $400,000 mortgage under rules from the Federal Housing Finance Agency that goes into effect on May 1st. Costs that will help subsidize people with lower credit ratings also looking for a mortgage, according to the Washington Post. Quote, the changes do not make sense.
Yeah, okay, for $40 a month, and then for 30 years, $14,400.
Yeah. Because that's the whole thing, right? Like that's why mortgage rates, why the percentages and like what the Fed's doing and everything, that's why that all matters right now.
Or now because the federal government just also authorized a 40-year home loan. So now you can get a 40-year home loan. So now that is $19,200.
See, and the thing is with 40s is that doesn't make sense. Like, okay, so the problem is that people see 40 years, and what happens is that they're going to see the monthly rate for that and go, oh, that's cheaper, and then go that route, not understanding that what that means is you are building equity at a slower rate.
Yes. is,
I mean, again, because I work in mortgages and I work in subprime mortgages.
Okay, just doing the math. Just doing the math. Say everything goes right, and 25, 26 years old, you're married, you're looking to buy a home, right? So now on a 40-year mortgage, you have to pay on that house till you're 65 years old. Right? At what age do you get the Social Security? What is it, like 67 now?
Yeah, well, and I mean, and keep in mind too that most mortgages that are prime mortgages, right, are going to have prepayment penalties, which means if you pay them off early, you have to pay almost as much money as if you just waited to pay them off. This is basically a 40-year mortgage is basically a lifetime debt rather than what real estate should be, which is an investment in equity.
Yeah, and if you don't buy a home until you're 30, you're paying on that till you're 70. And remember, if you die at 68, they're going to take that house. Right? So you paid 38 years into a house the bank tanks.
Well, I mean, it depends, a lot on what you do, but yeah, I mean, it's the thing is a 40 year is playing with fire. Even a 30 year is probably not something that you want to do if you can avoid it at all. The thing is like this guy from Ian Wright, who's a senior loan officer at Bay Equity Home Loans, said the changes do not make sense. Penalizing borrowers with larger down payments and credit scores will not go over well. It overcomplicates things for consumers that during a process can already feel overwhelming with the amount of paperwork, jargon, etc. Confusing the borrower is never a good thing, and it is super confusing. Again, like I specialize right in subprime lending for homes. Like that's what I do. I work with a credit union, and I work exclusively doing things with well, I can't say exclusively with subprime, but borrowers, but they're getting subprime rates, right? And sometimes that's still beneficial for various reasons we won't go into. But that's what I do for a living, and trying to explain to first-time home buyers anything that exists now and like what's going on and like what do I mean by escrow, what do I mean by closing costs, like what do you mean I have to get an appraisal and I have to pay that up front, what like all these other things.
Just out of curiosity, what is kind of credited with causing the 2008 slowdown, the housing crash?
Oh, it's the repeal of Glass-Steagall.
Yeah, so under the new rules, consumers with lower credit ratings and less money for a down payment would qualify for better mortgages than they would otherwise would have.
Which is exactly what caused the crash. So anyone who doesn't know, right, let me explain 2008, right? So 2008 happens because Bill Clinton...
Oh, they called it predatory lending because they were giving loans to people who couldn't afford it.
But it's not even predatory. Like it became predatory once they realized like that they could make more money by taking people's houses. Yes. But it wasn't even initially predatory lending. Like, so what initially happens is that Bill Clinton is so in bed with Wall Street, right? And with guys like Chase Bank and JP Morgan, and he's so in bed with these guys, and they're going, hey, so what we'd really like to do is take our money from our retail banking and use that for our investment banking, because there's a whole bunch of money here that we're not allowed to touch.
Yes.
And so he convinces Clinton to then push the Democratic Party to then repeal Glass-Steagall, which is a law. This means Larry Finkel. But this is so BlackRock. Yeah. Yeah. So essentially what happens then is they push him to then push the Democratic Party to repeal, because they have a super majority. Well, not quite a super majority, but they control more or less the legislature. So they repeal Glass-Steagall, right? Which is a law that was enacted after the crash in 29 that said that banks had to keep their investment arms and their retail arms separate. That's why you had JP Morgan and Chase. JP Morgan was an investment bank. Chase was a retail bank, right? So Chase dealt with the public, and JP Morgan did investments and and made bets and things like that, right? So you have that. So then now that they can combine, you get JP Morgan Chase, and then you get all sorts of other things. And Wells Fargo does it. A bunch of other banks do it. Lehman Brothers famously starts doing it, right? So now what they're doing is they're then on top of that, in addition to them playing with regular people's money, right? And so basically perpetually teetering on the edge of violating liquidity standards. Then you have simultaneously the Fed that creates negative interest rates, which means that it appears on paper as though people who make effectively no money can afford mortgages. The words, what is it? The if it hasn't died, it can buy is, I think, the phrase that I've heard from a few guys who were working in the mortgage industry back then. So basically, if you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage at the time. And so all these people are going out and they're getting these mortgages and things. But what's worse is that they're getting ARMs, right? So adjustable rate mortgages that say that you have X amount of time where it's going to be at this rate. And then at the end of this rate, now it's going to adjust based on the market. And at the time, they didn't necessarily have caps. So it could adjust within, I mean, like 8%.
Yeah.
Like, so you have these huge things, which doesn't sound like a lot until you consider if it's $400,000.
Yeah. What's it now? 6.5% or something like that?
Current prime, I haven't looked in the past week, but it's probably like 6.8. It's been hovering around 7, which I've been told by guys who have been in the industry since the 80s is actually normal. Like that's the average.
That's where, it's about where it should be.
But so it was negative. So you had these negative interest rates. So you had all these banks that were doing all of these mortgages, and they're doing just tons and tons and tons of mortgages, and mortgages that they know are probably never going to get paid back. Right? They're doing all of these bad deals. And simultaneously, their investment wing is doing bets that they're going to fail.
Playing both sides against the middle.
Right. So because of the repeal of Glass-Steagall, that meant that what could happen is that the retail bank could be going, oh, I'm going to do all these mortgages, and then I'm going to sell all these mortgages off to my investment wing, who is simultaneously betting that my retail wing is going to fail. And so this sets up this cycle where it's all this fake money being built and built and built and built, all this fake equity. None of it really exists. And it's being built and built and built and built. And that's a bubble, right? There's nothing actually supporting it. And it builds and builds. And then there's this point where it bursts, where all these mortgages start defaulting one after another, after another, after another. So all these banks start failing. And the problem on top of that is that these investment banks are betting against each other on whether or not their own banks are going to fail. So now the bank fails. It doesn't get paid back on any of these, which means it fails, which means that investment wing should get paid out on this, but it can't because the people who are supposed to pay it out are also failing.
Okay. I got a quote for you. Okay, this is from Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Sandra Thompson. She said the new rules are designed to, quote, increase pricing support for purchase borrowers limited by income or by wealth, and comes with only, quote, minimal fee changes.
Limited by income or by wealth, which means they can't pay it back. That's the thing, right? And this is unnecessary. This is a completely unnecessary move on top of everything else, because people like me and what I do and the organization that I work for already exist. And we do mortgages for people who have worse credit and are in lower income brackets and everything else. And we offset our risk. We mitigate our own risk through higher interest rates, higher down payments, higher closing costs. We mitigate those risks ourselves.
Hold on. I got one more. Why was this? This is from Stevens. He says, why was this done? The answer is simple. It was to try to narrow the gap in access to credit, especially for minority home buyers who often have lower down payments and lower credit scores.
Well, that's pretty fucking racist.
You need to check your credit privilege, Andrew.
But I mean, that's the thing that drives me nuts, though, is like, one, this was not needed. Like, there are plenty of organizations out here who are already doing this, but we're doing it in an intelligent way, right? Because we're responsible to our members as a credit union to maintain safety and soundness in our investments. So we're going to mitigate our own risk, which means that we prevent another bubble from happening that way.
Yes.
Right? We're still giving increased access to the underserved. That's what we're there for. But we're doing it in a responsible way that is mitigating risk. What they want is for us to just go, nah, screw risk. Like, let's just give everybody money.
Well, it's a low key way to start the nationalization process.
Right, the nationalization of mortgages, which already started in 2008 after Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy in June.
But it's the same thing they're doing with the student loan debt, right? The student loans. It's the same thing. Now they're doing it to housing.
This is not the kind of equity that we should be talking about when we talk about mortgages.
What happened to the cost of student loans? What happened to the cost of college?
Yeah, as soon as people realized government was just handing money out left and right, guess what? The cost of college skyrocketed. As soon as people realized that government and insurance companies were handing money out to hospitals left and right, all the fake prices started happening. And now look at where the cost of healthcare is in the United States. And that's not the result of greedy hospitals necessarily. It's a result of insurance companies and government intervention.
Yes. Yeah. So where is this going to lead? Give me a 60-second rant on what you think this sort of thing is going to lead to. Give me 60 seconds in the short term and then 60 seconds in the long term.
So in the short term, what happens is, I mean, especially when combined with the way the Fed has been capricious about interest rates for the past.
Ooh, there's a 35-cent word.
Yeah. With that, like at this point, I think what happens is this leads to a worsening of what's already happening in the housing market. And if you're unfamiliar with the housing market right now, nationally, there is a weird disparity between buyers and sellers. There are far more buyers than there are sellers, which is causing a serious drop in inventory. So what winds up happening now is that it's only going to get worse. So you're only going to see that happen, which is going to further artificially inflate housing prices. Exactly the same thing we saw, right? We saw that, if you're familiar with the housing market, we saw that in August, September, October last year. We saw housing prices get absolutely ridiculous. And even at the time,
to the point that there was less than 1 million houses in the market, that there's less than 1 million houses available for purchase.
Right, and that was with a 3% interest rate and without any subsidies for lower credit borrowers, right? That was already like that.
Yeah, Clint over at Liberty Lockdown, he did several episodes on that exactly. And him and I have actually talked about it a few times. Like normal inventory in the U.S. contiguous United States, right? There's supposed to be like 1.5, 1.8 million houses, something like that. In like 2021, early 2022, there was like 600,000, and it flew the prices up so fucking fast because demand, and like houses here in my area were selling for 50, 60, 70% over listing price. There was 1.6 acres sold in the Oakland Hills with a cabin that was uninhabitable. The house had to be torn down completely. It was 1.6 acres, and it sold for like $7.5 million.
Good God.
Yeah.
See, but that's the thing too, is like, even at the time, right? Those of us who are in the industry at the time were bringing up, even then, there's going to be a ton of these people who are going to wind up upside down on their mortgages.
Yes.
Upside down means that you owe more than you have in equity. So that's that was one of those things that like we warned all the way back then. I think you're going to start seeing that. You're going to start seeing an increase then in home building, because that is a thing that we saw in 2008, right? All of a sudden, everybody and their brother was a general contractor. Everybody was building houses absolutely everywhere. You should have seen Dubuque in 08, man. It was nuts. There's like 70 freaking contractors in Dubuque, Iowa.
In Silicon Valley at that same time frame.
Oh God. So like in the short term, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see you're going to see housing prices skyrocket. And here's what's going to happen is that's going to be a domino effect, right? Housing prices are going to skyrocket, which means that it pushes mortgages out of the affordability of people who are lower income and lower credit anyway, all over again, which means government's going to go, oh no, they still can't afford anything. And they're going to raise things again. They're going to increase subsidies. They're going to increase things. Right. And what's going to happen is demand's going to keep increasing, which is going to artificially cause people to continue to do developments. They're going to continue to build new houses. You're going to see all this stuff, and it's going to be 2008 all over again, which some of us were worried about from the way the Fed was playing with the interest rate.
Yep.
But realistically, like I had tons of veterans, right? Long-term veterans of the industry tell me, oh, don't worry about it, kid. Like this isn't 2008. This is not going to be 2008. It's fine. This is a market correction. It's going to be fine. Everything's copacetic.
Yeah, it was a burp.
Those voices have started to quiet since this news came out.
Yes. Yeah. So let's segue from that to a place where that has kind of already happened, where home affordability has risen to the point that normal people can't live there. And there's actually an article last year that said if you made less than $200,000, you were considered in poverty in the city.
Good God.
Gavin Newsome directs National Guard to help combat San Francisco's fentanyl crisis.
Can you imagine?
Making $200,000 a year living in poverty?
And being called in poverty?
Yes.
Well,
you got all the taxes. I mean, you're not bringing home $200,000, but...
Dude, I don't even make half that.
Yeah, so California Governor Gavin Newsom has directed the National Guard and the California Highway Patrol to combat San Francisco's fentanyl trafficking crisis. On Friday, Newsom announced an effort to have both agencies assist local authorities to address the rise in fentanyl use. The agreement will focus on, quote, dismantling fentanyl trafficking and disrupting the supply of the deadly drug into the city by holding the operators of large-scale drug trafficking operations accountable. As if they weren't doing that already.
Well, this is foreboding, man. This is the beginning of a national trend. I guarantee it. As things get worse, as financial shit keeps getting worse, people are going to start turning to whatever they can. One, to escape their poverty by any means necessary in terms of escapism, and two, to escape it by catering to those people by any means necessary.
They're doing this while creating the policies that allow it to happen.
You know what I predict in California for Halloween for its most popular costume? Snake Plissken.
Well, you can't do Halloween because it's cultural appropriation.
Oh, okay. I'm still predicting Snake Plissken becomes a very popular outfit for California at this rate. Perhaps we should do a third movie, Escape from San Francisco.
Oh, I'm just waiting for someone to trigger the San Andreas.
Dude, there was that book in that movie back in the 70s, Goodbye California, and where everyone was all panicked because, oh no, they're going to drop a thermonuclear warhead into the San Andreas Fault and break California off. And I think if that same book were to be written today, everyone would be like, I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, fucking do it, pussy, do it. I dare you.
Do we have to crowdfund this?
Yeah, like, would you like donations? Is there a GoFundMe for this?
Give Singo.
The terrorists would be like, no, I'm going to do it, and everyone's like, please. No,
please.
No. If you don't give me money, no, we're going to give you money to do it. You're misunderstanding. Like, if you could just go ahead and just make that happen,
please. I didn't really want to talk about that article. I just had to bring that up because it's fucking hilarious. But I do want to bring up this one. This one. So I run in some groups that aren't PC, and this one came up a few times, and there was some some discussions on things that I can't publicly mention. But Chicago group aims to curb youth rioting with Amber Alert like system. Hold on. Hold on. A pressing issue for the Chicago Police Department and its incoming leadership in the downtown teen takeovers, as another gathering has been advertised on social media this weekend. But churches and community groups are now stepping up in partnership with the police to curb youth rioting. Community organizations are now doing their part to help stop teen takeovers that happened last week in Chicago. The new idea on the table is an Amber Alert-like system to let parents know these gatherings are happening.
So instead of why are these gatherings happening, what is going on, what have we screwed up, and what do we need to fix? Instead, we're going to go, hey, everyone who can afford a smartphone and who's maybe more well-to-do, here's the places to avoid in the city because of the riots today.
Not only that, so it's like you imagine getting your phone gets a notification. You're like, oh, there's a thunderstorm warning. Oh, there's a large gathering outside the 8th Street Target. Tell me you live in a failed society without telling me. I was going to say,
you guys do understand that this is like one of those features that you would expect to have in some sort of dystopian future, like sci-fi film, right?
Yes.
Like notifications for the wealthy about gatherings of the riffraff for their riots.
just the electronic boards on the side of the freeway. Avoid 8th Street, large gathering. Like you saw the video of what they did to that Walmart, right?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? Like, think about this for a second. We are in, like, again, you currently are a protagonist in a dystopian future saga. Act accordingly, right? So, like, think about it. There are right now a bunch of electric cars on the highway, cruising along on their own. They're driving themselves, right? And there are alerts that will now pop up on the screen of your electric car.
Yep.
Warning you that you need to avoid certain areas because there are riots by disenfranchised,
not only riots,
poverty-stricken youths.
Not only like that, they had just large gathering of youth. Just imagine getting the notification and the preview bar says large youth gathering. And you're supposed to be like, oh, well, I guess I'll avoid that area and everything will be fine.
There was a time in my life where if I had gotten that notification, I would have been like, that sounds like a sweet fucking party. And now I go, all right, well, I guess it's time to lock and load and throw on my plate carrier.
Target rich environment.
Yeah, like this is what has changed. Like the world that you grew up in is dead.
It's dead. It's absolutely gone.
And it's never coming back.
Yeah. And not only is it not coming back, but the people that you refuse to admit that you hate, that hate you, won.
Yeah.
The people that hate you, hate what you stand for, hate your belief system, hate your ideology, hate your religion, they won. And they give zero fucks that you're upset about it. because you're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, you're not, and that's the thing, is you're not going to do anything, right? Like the majority of people, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to stop it. And even if you wanted to, could you at this point? I don't think so. I think what is going to happen is going to happen. And actually, to that point, Dave, you and I can have a hell of a discussion about that particular one.
The Book of Revelations.
Yes, let me assure you.
Yes,
you and I can have a hell of a discussion about that. As an ordained minister, I assure you and I can have a hell of a discussion.
It's something somebody's been talking to me about.
Lindsay's been asking me about it constantly. Because she knows how studied I am in it and stuff.
Yeah. So, but if you're interested, text Chicago Kids to 21000. That's 21,000. To sign up for the notifications,
so that you too can be notified that the riffraff are currently gathering.
But you know what? That is not the most dystopian thing that I have. That is not.
Dave, it'll be an interesting discussion. I'll tell you, it'll be an interesting discussion. It's an in-depth, very interesting discussion.
As I said, that is not the most dystopian thing that I have, article-wise. You ready for this, Andrew? This is out of the UK, thankfully, out of the UK. Kitchen knives could be seized from homes of suspected criminals under new home office plans being considered.
Oi, well, at least we don't have your mass stabbing, your mass shootings. Oh, you stabbed me, crikey. Blimey, I've been stabbed and now acid thrown in my face. Is that a van?
Police will be consulted by ministers to allow them extra powers to, quote, seize, retain, and destroy bladed articles kept in private, even if the knives are, quote, not on the Home Office's banned list of weapons. According to the Telegraph, the move is one of numerous measures created to harden up sentences for selling, importing, and possessing knives. Noted an 11% increase in knife crime in England and Wales in the past 12 months to September 2022, with the police recording 50,434 offenses involving a knife or sharp instrument during that period. A total of 20 knives and similar weapons are banned in the UK, along with belt buckle knives, push daggers, spiral knives, butterfly knives, swords, and sheathed knives.
Hey, guess what, UK? Ooga booga. Oh man, I got my fucking my Bowie knife sitting over there, and I just bust that out and be like, ha ha ha. But here's like,
we're gonna get banned in the UK now.
This is the whole thing, though, right? Like, this is when they're like, oh well, if we just got rid of guns, then everyone would be safer. Really, really.
Don't need no knives to eat beans and mash.
It's not beans and mash. It's beans on toast and
beans on toast. Yeah.
It's just, oh god. When I see Brits like, oh, beans on toast, I'm like, you people, this is why we needed to have a war to get rid of you.
Hold on. Ministers have pointed out that police have their hands tied when raiding suspected criminal homes if they come across weapons that are not on the banned list, including machetes. Officers are not allowed to seize weapons if they are not banned, even if they're suspected to have been used in crimes. Machetes are set to be outlawed under plans announced by the ministers today.
No more brush removal.
Who uses the machetes?
Gosh, it's almost like there's a specific group in the UK who consistently uses machetes, who may or may not be tied to a group who throw people off of buildings in places where they're a majority. Gosh. they're probably, let's be honest here, they're probably the UK's largest import at this point. The people, not the machetes. The people are the UK. Actually, they're still not, because don't forget that the UK, basically, it's an island that produces nothing.
Yes.
It only imports things. That's the whole reason why they needed their empire in the first freaking place, is because they can't produce anything themselves.
Yeah. True that.
And if you've ever watched Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime, which I highly recommend, it's absolutely amazing. Although now it's been killed off because he said mean things about Megan.
You mean the one they don't? You mean the Megan they don't like, the American?
Yeah. He said mean things. Yeah. But but anyway, if you've ever watched Clarkson's Farm, you understand why they don't produce their own food is because there's so many regulations, there's so much stuff involved, there's so much extra cost because it's the UK that farmers can't make anything. Clarkson has an abnormally gigantic farm for the UK, which sounds hilarious for America, right? It's like 1,200 acres.
Yeah.
That is hilariously small for the United States. Like that's not a big farm in the United States, right? 1,200 acres. He had a massive diversity of products, everything else, all this other stuff. He made like 144 pounds total in a year. Yeah. And that was with government subsidies to offset government regulatory burdens. So like to put in perspective, and then he was like, oh, well, I'll diversify, I'll open my own restaurant and everything. And they opposed it every step of the way. They interfered with it every step of the way. Every regulation he attempted to comply with, they came up with a new excuse for why that didn't work. Like this is what's happening. And the UK is reaping absolutely what it deserves because it's what it sowed.
Yes. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane, but
well, Dave, the pirates didn't take over the UK. The pirates were always in charge of the UK. Always. The worst the worst offenders about taking things from people that didn't belong to them have always been the British. Always. And that even goes back before William the Conqueror comes over in 1066 with the Normans, right? And the Normans certainly like made it way worse, but even the Anglo-Saxons, right? Even they did the same crap, going all the way back to Athelstan and stuff. Like they were still taking things from people because, well, but I'm nobility, but I'm the king, I am gentry. And you see that same crap and tying that into, back into the knives thing. Remember that part of the reason why the UK has the gun laws that it has, right, which the anti-gun people in the United States want to keep pointing back to, which still fucking boggles my mind. The whole reason for that is because after the peasants' revolt in particular, which resulted in Magna Carta, right, which the British king proceeded to just simply ignore entirely anyway. The entire thing is that they didn't want people who were not landed gentry, who were not part of the nobility, to be allowed to own arms because then their power would be threatened.
Yep. Which is a good segue. It's almost like you planned that.
Hey.
Did you?
I didn't.
Oh. Well, we can segue anyway on the didn't want the peasants to be armed, blah, 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 blah. Right. Piggyback on that part. Jurors in Jacksonville machine gun trial convict Orange Park business and YouTube figure.
Don't forget, if you look at the picture for this article, you notice something about the magazine and the weapon?
Yeah, that's a 22 in the picture, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 22.
It's an assault rifle.
Yeah. Let's see. If you click show image or show photo image, it actually mentions that it's a 22.
Yeah, it's a, if I remember right, it's a Mossberg?
Mossberg, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No forward assist.
Well, you don't want a forward assist in a 22. I'm going to ram that sucker home. Bang. Holy shit.
Shh. Don't kink shame me. Jurors found an Orange Park business owner guilty on all counts in federal trial about marketing thousands of illegal machine gun conversion devices through a web-based company advertising on YouTube. Wisconsin gun dealer who gun-centered YouTube channel had 180,000 subscribers and was convicted of conspiracy with auto key card owner Christopher Justin Irvin, as well on 4 counts of transferring the unregistered devices.
Yeah, and keep in mind that the auto key card, right? That Irvin was allegedly marketing for them, right? Is a piece of metal. It is a flat panel of metal with the size of a credit card
with some etching on it.
With etching on it. It's not cut out. Yeah. This isn't a thing that's already cut out or anything. It's not functional. You need to modify that piece of metal in order to make it do what they're accusing him of having it do.
Is it like an 80% card? Is that what you're saying?
It's well, much like a thing that I have, it's what's called a felony starter kit. But it is not in and of itself a felony and should not be, because you cannot take that card and stick it into a gun and it will just work. There's a bunch of shit you need to do, and you need machining knowledge to do it.
Yep. I want to see this one go all the way to Scutus and see him hit him with brawn.
That would be nice.
Ruin, yeah. Gun dealer Matthew Hoover, known to many gun enthusiasts through his CRS Firearms channel, was taken into custody by the U.S. Marshals after the verdict was returned on Friday. Irving has been behind bars since his arrest in 2021. Hoover had been allowed to remain free before the trial and continued posting YouTube installments, some about his own case. His attorneys asked to continue that or to let him surrender to marshals of Wisconsin, but U.S. District Judge Marsha Morales-Hauer said custody was the default for someone convicted of multiple felonies and declined to make an exception after hearing where prosecutors raised concerns about the safety of the trial witnesses and prosecutors citing hostile comments by visitors to Hoover's YouTube site.
I just... Like, guys, don't actually say that stuff. Like, come on. You don't say that stuff publicly, all right?
Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969.
That's just
inflammatory speech, quote, unless that speech is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action. Threatening someone is producing imminent lawless action.
And is likely, can be argued to be likely to cause or incite imminent lawless action. Don't do that, morons.
Yes. So sentencing is scheduled for July 31st, which they're both in jail now until at least that point. Irving sold card-shaped strips of stainless steel etched with patterns for equipment colloquially. What? And okay, I'm gonna stop at equipment. And you're gonna say that word, and I'll just keep going. Irving sold card-shaped stripes of stainless steel etched with patterns for equipment,
colloquially
called Lightning Link, that can convert a semi-automatic AR-15 into a fully automatic machine gun that fires round upon round from a single trigger pull.
Which is a load of horse shit. No, it can on its own.
Hold on. Although a buyer would have to follow the etched lines with a cutting tool, prosecutors argued that the cards qualified as conversion devices, which the federal government treats like machine guns that have to be registered and regulated under the National Firearms Act of 1934. They threw them in cages. They're throwing them in cages because of lines drawn on a piece of stainless steel.
Yeah, again, keep in mind, this is not like it's a cutout where you can just go pop and it's out and it's ready to go, right?
Yeah.
You needed to cut it out and you needed to grind on the edges and everything else and double check tolerances and do all these things. And you were doing machining to it, which is exactly the same thing you could do if you simply knew the dimensions of a lightning link.
Which are available online.
Which are available. A drop-in auto sear is available online if you want the dimensions for it. Like, all you need to do is just buy some aluminum, buy some steel in the right thicknesses, and boom, done.
They post the picture of the lightning links in the article. It doesn't have dimensions, but it would not be difficult to figure out.
Yeah. That's and if you're already doing what you would need to do with the auto key card, all you need to do is take that, right? And you trace it with a fucking Sharpie and you cut it out and you do the same thing. Like they are calling a thin strip of steel a machine gun.
Yes. That's exactly what it comes down to, is because which the federal government treats like machine guns that have to be registered and regulated under the National Firearms Act of 1934. So that's what they're saying. This business card size piece of stainless steel with lines on it is now has to be registered as a machine gun according to the U.S. government.
Well, and as Chris points out in the chat, and it's something that you and I brought up too, where like, no, you can't just drop this in even after you're done. You need a full auto bolt carrier, and you need the actual fire control group to also have full auto components in it. If it does not, if you have a regular standard AR-15, which the majority of people have, it won't work.
3-stage safety and just all that other stuff. Yeah, like it's not a $10 thing, right? You can't just buy the $10 card and be like, oh, I have a machine gun. No.
Well, I mean, you don't need the third hole drilled. You actually don't need that bit, but you do need a full auto hammer. You need a full auto bolt carrier, because the lightning link essentially replaces the auto sear. It's complicated that I'm not obviously going to get into on YouTube, but but it
why is Andrew being canceled?
Yeah, without those other components, like it's not going to function. It's not. There are other parts that need to be there.
Yep, hashtag not legal advice. So yes, not legal advice.
Don't forget. In the mid 1990s, right? In the mid 1990s, an ATF case charged a guy with manufacturing machine gun, and he was successfully convicted because he had a full auto BCG and a full auto hammer and shit in his gun. And they, by adding additional parts to the gun, were able to make it fire full auto. They then charged him with manufacturing a machine gun. Even though he didn't manufacture the machine gun, they manufactured the machine gun.
Yes.
He was still convicted and sentenced to like 20 years or something ridiculous for it. So that's happened. Like merely, like that's why, like I always I warn people, like understand, merely having a full auto BCG and a full auto hammer in your gun is potentially enough for the ATF to charge you with constructive possession of a machine gun.
Yeah, leave those things in the bottom of the lake until, you know,
bottom of the lake. I didn't lose shit
until there's a drought. Stop it, Patrick. You're scaring him. Quote, where's the line? That's really a question you all have to face. That is Executive Assistant U.S. Attorney Laura Coffer Taylor told jurors Thursday afternoon, shortly before the 8 women and 4 men began their deliberating. Defense attorneys argued that the firearm law doesn't cover the clients because it doesn't restrict items that could potentially be made into conversion devices, but haven't yet.
Exactly, because if it did, then any piece of metal on planet Earth could potentially be the thing. Shit, you could make it out of fucking polymer.
Yes.
Which would mean that simply having a roll of 3D printed polymer constitutes now a felony.
There's a lot of 3D plans for them. Quote, as long as you do not cut it out, you have not broken the law. That's Irving's lawyer, Alex King, told the same juror that afternoon. The trial included testimony from some auto key card clients who said they had not cut the cards they bought, but wanted them on hand in case of dystopian emergencies like a breakdown in social order. Stop fucking saying that to fucking government. Don't tell the government things like that.
Yeah, don't
have a little bit of OPSEC. Let Andrew and I say it because we're already public and we're already fucked.
Yeah, we know that they're coming for us. Like we know that. So, like, we will say, hey, look, that's why you need this stuff. Don't say it yourselves. Because when you say it yourselves, you become a target. You go on their radar, you go on their lists, and now they're monitoring you. They've been monitoring me for most of my fucking life. Like,
a 12-count indictment finalized last month charges the men with conspiracy and 7 counts of illegally distributing unregistered machine gun conversion devices, as well as 3 counts for Irving of possession of unregistered devices and a single banking charge of structuring financial transactions to avoid triggering attention of the account that handled auto key card sales and expenses.
That one stems from the fact that he was accepting payments through crypto.
Yeah. So they're both facing conspiracy charges and 7 counts of illegal distributing unregistered machine conversion devices. And then Irving also has 3 counts of possession of an unregistered device and the banking charge. So what is it? What they said, is it 10 years for owning a machine gun or something like that? I think is what the federal government.
Yeah. Basically, it's something like they're looking at basically spending the rest of their lives in prison because
entirely possible.
They sold and promoted a piece of metal with some marks on it.
Yes. Irving started to find customers when he began selling Anarchy. Sales surged dramatically when he began sponsored installments on Hoover's CRS Firearms YouTube channel. King told jurors the company records reflected, quote, somewhere between 900 and 3,000 people getting auto key cards.
And if you bought those, maybe don't tell anyone you have them. Just a thought. Yes. For legal reasons, I'm going to recommend that you get rid of them. Yes. But, I mean, I don't know your life.
Yes. So, yeah, both men say they're planning appeals. So,
this case needs to get all the way to
Scootus, and I want to see Scootus just fucking smash it with the Broomhammer.
Yeah, and I would love to see that. I don't know that I would put a lot of faith in that, but I would love to see that happen.
Holy shit, is that accurate, Chris? Hoover's looking at 45. Irving's looking at 110.
Yes, that is accurate.
Fuck. That's a life sentence. That's a life sentence at their ages at this point. That's a life sentence.
For promoting a thing that is just a thin piece of metal.
Promoting and selling a credit card sized piece of stainless steel with etching on it.
To put in perspective how ridiculous this is, okay? I just want to put this in perspective real quick. So there are companies that will take your credit card, right?
Yes. Yep.
And they will make a metal, a flat stainless steel panel.
Yep.
That is the size and shape of a credit card. And then they will pull the chip from your credit card and put it in there. Okay. So you have this cool, much more durable card. And they will allow you to have laser etched into that metal card any design you want.
Yes.
If you were to send them...
Oh, that's transfer of a unregistered machine gun, Andrew.
Right. If you were to send them that picture, right, under this ruling, if you were to send them a picture, an outline, a properly scaled outline for a credit card of a lightning link, the 2 components to a lightning link, to put on there, under this ruling, that is then a machine gun.
See, but where does this end? Is it because it was on stainless steel and they were selling it? What if it's a meme? What if it's a meme that has dimensions? Is a meme with dimensions an unregistered machine gun?
Legally, actually, no. There are existing Supreme Court cases that say no.
Why is the meme differently than etchings on stainless steel?
Because one is in the physical possession of people.
Okay, I'm going to print out.
That's all it is.
I'm going to print them out on a piece of paper. I'm going to carry that around, and I'm going to tell people I have a unregistered machine gun in my pocket.
I would not recommend that for the sake of your health. That's probably not going to go well. Because the ATF, based on this, the ATF's likely to actually arrest you for it.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. So.
I mean, would prior legal precedent stop the ATF from being fuckwads? No, it won't. It obviously won't. It obviously has nothing to do with it. Even after the Bruin decision, they still move forward with the pistol brace thing and everything else. It obviously has no bearing on what they're going to choose to do. Don't forget that in California a few years ago, there was that guy who owned an airsoft shop. And they seized his entire inventory and threatened to arrest him because he was selling things that could be readily converted into machine guns.
Yeah, but and then on the
agent in charge, agent in charge went on national television to defend his decision to confiscate and said, well, they could be converted into machine guns.
Yep. And then on the flip side, it's the same industry that dropped charges against a guy who's hosting 80% parties because he challenged the definition of a lower.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just fuckwads. And this is not the only ATF story I have, or we have.
Which is why I have my I didn't lose shit patch on.
So this is a Epoch Times article. Texas coordinates with the ATF to share income of residents for warrantless monitoring.
Oh, we live in Texas. We're free. We ain't gonna succumb to none of the Nah, you absolutely still are.
Yep. Put an asterisk on that Gonzalez flag, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Texas secretly gave its citizens income to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Documents show this has led to at least one person being monitored by the feds without a warrant through the federal gun background check system. The Texas Workforce Commission told Epoch Times that it has written contracts with the ATF for, quote, sharing income information for criminal investigations. The revelation may lead to oversight by the legislature.
Yeah, which means that they also chose to sign this contract without the legislature, the actual elected officials, even knowledge.
Yes. Texas State Representative Briscoe Cain, Republican, quote, is deeply troubled about the coordination with the state's unemployment agency and federal government. Quote, my office will be looking into whether the Texas Workforce Commission is assisting the ATF in the Biden administration's mission to violate the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. This is the third part in an exclusive Epoch Times series on the ATF giving information on innocent suspects to the FBI for daily monitoring through the NICS system. The FBI uses NICS as a database of people who are prohibited from possessing and buying guns.
Gosh, I can't imagine why everybody wants to use 80% lowers and manufacture their own firearms. Yeah. It's just a mystery.
In one of the documents, an ATF agent emailed the FBI that a person suspected of straw purchases or firearms trafficking needed to be put into the gun background check database. The agency wrote that, quote, per TWC, the man's reported wage earnings with the state of Texas do not appear to supply the financial means to afford the firearms purchased.
Go fuck yourself.
Yes.
Yes. And this again, though, remember, this is unemployment, right? So if you work for someone else, no matter what, they're going to get this information.
Yes. Yes. So, so the ATF agent requested December 8, 2020 that the Texans' gun purchases be monitored daily for 90 days. However, as previously reported, the FBI wrote that the ATF that its agents could request an extension of the monitoring for as long as they wanted.
As long as they want. Well, I don't believe that this guy ain't really doing this, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep monitoring him every day. I don't have a warrant or any actual probable cause, but it's my intuition.
Yep. Texas's role in the program was uncovered in the ATF's 9th production of documents to the GOA, that's the Gun Owners of America, as part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. The 42 pages are more heavily redacted than the previous ones given to the GOA. There are 7 pages of blacked out information before the source of the income of the person in Texas shown as the TWC. One would think, quote, one would think that a pro-gun state like Texas would not be handing over gun owners' confidential financial information to the federal government without a warrant, or likely even without probable cause. That is Rob Olson, an attorney for the GOA, told the Epoch Times.
So, in the chat, the Texas passed a made in Texas suppressor bill. Shit like this proves all of that was nothing more than grandstanding. Exactly. Yes. And that's one of those things I bring up on here all the time, because at least in the northern part of the United States, we understand that the state is in no way on our side, and that nobody stands for freedom around us.
Kansas has a freedom suppressor bill too, and they allowed a father and son to be arrested and prosecuted by the federal government.
Yep, exactly.
Them at all.
This is the thing I keep bringing up. Like when Texans go, "Oh, we're so much more free." No, you aren't. You are just being far more misled.
Yeah.
Because they're more worried about you. But they are doing exactly the same thing there, if not worse.
Yeah. But they're you're buying too many guns for your income. So we're going to turn your information over to the ATF, and the ATF's going to give it to the FBI.
And don't forget that private party in Texas is totally legal, which means you could easily be buying guns, selling those guns, turning around and using those to buy more guns.
Yes. Yes. Gun buybacks exist, right? You can go buy a piece of lumber and a steel pipe and like $2.50 worth of product and turn it into a gun buyback for $250. I'm just saying. You can make extra income that way. Hashtag not advice.
My favorite is those guys with the gun buybacks where they spend like $5 on putting some pipe on a strapping some pipe to a piece of wood with a little spring-loaded nail and throw a serial number on it, and then now it's a gun, and so they get $200.
My other favorite one too is they I think it was Missouri, they had a gun buyback, and it was like $250 for shotguns or something like that. And they went to some podunk pawn shop and bought 5 or 6 like single shot 12 gauges for like $85 a piece, and turned them into 250 piece.
Abracadabra! Yay! Yeah, and that's they're garbage guns no one wants anyway. So just
Camden County, Missouri. They told the ATF to pound sand. The county commissioner there, the one who pushed that, his brother owned a gun shop and was fucked with by the ATF. So there's some precedent there, but the entire county is like, no, fuck you, bro. Which is how it should be. Just saying, that's how it should be.
Yeah, but the reality is that like what this highlights is that if you put your faith in, but my politicians, they're better than your politicians. No, they're not. They're just as bad. And you know what? Ignoring your politicians, your bureaucrats are just as bad, if not worse, than my bureaucrats.
That's another segue. That's another segue. And this one's, we're going to have a laugh, but it's also kind of serious, but it's definitely a laugh. You ready for this one?
Boy, this is the hidden article, isn't it?
No, that was the knives.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a Vice News article. Okay. Washington is banning assault rifles, and left-wing gun owners are scared.
Oh gosh. Are you?
Washington is about to become the 10th state to ban assault weapons. Under the new law, expected to be signed by Governor Jay Inslee shortly as the bill was passed by the legislature. So this article is from April 20th. I don't think he signed it yet. So, so this article came out on 420. Yeah. Passed by the legislature Wednesday, it will be illegal to buy, transfer, or export any firearm that falls under Washington's definition of an assault weapon. The ban applies to 62 specific models of firearms, including the infamous AR-15, as well as most semi-automatic rifles, pistols, or shotguns that have the capacity to accept a detachable magazine, and many others. Washington residents can keep their assault weapons that are owned prior to the ban, and the bill says that they can take them to a licensed gunsmith to get them repaired. But some Washington residents told Vice News that they are worried the ban creates a situation where, quote, traditional, quote unquote, traditional gun owners, white male conservatives, are sitting on an arsenal of high-powered weapons, which emerging demographics of gun owners like LGBTQ people, leftists, and minorities will no longer have access to.
Oh, gosh. You mean maybe the firearms are for defense and suddenly this didn't work out so hot for you? As somebody who's worked with pink pistols multiple times over the years, this is hilarious to me because this is one of those things they bring up all the time about why they so vehemently oppose all these gun bans right here.
The leftists are the ones that pushed for the assault weapons ban, pushed for these gun control bills. And now they're upset that they won't be able to buy them.
Oh, but we won't be able to defend ourselves. Oh, gosh, won't you?
Oh, darn.
Look at that.
That's just so terrible. That's just so sad.
But I'm
so upset.
The subtext here, though, is that they are admitting that they would turn them in if it was required.
Maybe.
Well, no, that's the subtext here, right? Because they're worried, well, but they have all of these and we don't yet. And so we're not going to have as many guns as they do. And that's their concern. What the tacit acknowledgement is that if it had said, well, you all have to turn them in, they'd be like, oh, well, they have to turn them in too. And then they would just willingly turn them in.
Yes. All right. Okay. I got a quote for you. This is from the bill. Quote, assault weapons are civilian versions of weapons created for the military and are designed to kill humans quickly and efficiently.
That's not even remotely accurate.
But they have no sporting or hunting purposes or self-defense purposes. Remember that. According to the gun grabbers, they have no
self-defense purposes,
hunting, or self-defense purposes.
Isn't defending yourself in a war a self-defense purpose?
Yes. Washington's new law is also notable because the state has the highest level of household gun ownership compared to other states with similar assault weapons bans on the books. A study by RAND in 2016 found that 34% of Washington adults lived in a household with a firearm, a figure likely increased in recent years given soaring gun sales during the pandemic. California, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York all have significantly lower rates of gun ownership by comparison when they're passed by their own versions between 1990 and 2000, as did Delaware and Illinois when they passed their own assault weapons ban last year. California actually has the highest number of FFLs in the United States and the highest number of gun ownership, but that's because California has like 50 million people.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just because even though they're selling shitty guns, there's just so many people.
Shit, and it's only a small percentage of the population, but because California has 50 million people, the smaller percentage is higher than other states. So, but that means Washington has a higher firearm and household ship than Texas. Percentage-wise, yeah. So, although Washington is a solidly blue state, it has deep red rural pockets of residents who feel increasingly culturally alienated from their liberal urban counterparts. A 2020 study identified Washington as one of the top 5 most polarized states in the U.S. Yeah.
Couldn't possibly be because all of the hyper urbanized fucking slaves just cannot possibly understand the independent nature of the actual descendants of the people who braved the Oregon fucking Trail.
A poll of Washington adults last year found that 61% were in favor of assault weapons bans, which was driven largely by Democrats over the age of 50 in urban and suburban areas.
Oh, look at that. I don't need an AR-15. Grandfather, you can't lift one.
Yes.
And you know what? You know, the irony is that these are the same people, right? The same fucking people who sit there, these same baby boomers who sit there and go, well, you don't need an assault weapon. You don't need a gun. I don't understand why you need a gun. When their door gets kicked in at 2 a.m, and then they get beaten half to death with a fucking hammer by some crazy meth addict, are the same ones who will then go, well, but why didn't the police protect me? And the police go, we got there as fast as we could.
Yeah, 18 minutes
later. These are the same fucking people.
Yep. Vice News put a call out to gun owners on the subreddit WA Guns, that's Washington Guns, and found that the fear of their fellow citizens, distrust of the government, and paranoia about the future was one of the key reasons driving opposition to the ban from gun owners across the political spectrum.
Oh, look at that.
Jeez. I wonder why they're so upset.
You didn't need to put out a survey to find that out.
Yes. George, a 40-year-old lifelong Democrat who declined to give his last name, says he supports other gun safety measures that made their way through the legislature, but says recent unrest in the U.S. has made him nervous about the future of the country. Quote, this is the worst time to unilaterally disarm a population of left-minded individuals.
Oh, gosh.
The next 5 or 10 years might decide the fate of America. And when the music stops and the next January 6th happens and we're scrambling to find a chair, I'm worried that the fascists will be the ones with all the guns.
Oh, first of all, you're the fascist. Second of all,
it's
like, first of all, you're the one who supports fascism. Let's be honest.
He's also the one that supports gun control.
Yeah, you're the one. I'm sorry. Were you people under the impression that they would pass a law that said, well, as long as you're a Republican or you're a straight white male or something specific, then you lose your guns, but these other people, they get to keep them? Were you under the impression that that's how laws work? No, that isn't. And that's the thing that we've been telling you for decades.
That's what needs to happen, is we just need to have everyone apply for a loan, right? For house loan. Everyone has to apply. And if your credit score falls below a certain level, then you can own firearms. Because as the loan says, you're likely what's the term they use? You're likely
a minority.
Minority, yeah. So as long as you fall below 640, then you can own firearms because you don't have white privilege.
Well, hey, I mean, my credit score is freaking terrible, so like that'll work out for me pretty well. As will most of rural white America. So, hey, look at that. I think that works out pretty well.
Oh, yes.
You know, the people who won't qualify under that will be mostly the Democrats who have like incomes of like 6 figures who live in major urban centers.
Yep. All right, hold on. I got another one for you. John Rolonski, Rewollinski. Rolonski?
Rolonski? I don't know. It's probably Polish. I have no idea how to pronounce that shit.
All right, so Polish John, 39, a political moderate from Bellevue, Washington, says that he's noticed the shifting demographic at his local gun range and thinks it's unfair that new types of gun owners will never have a chance to catch up. Quote, minorities and LGBTQ have been starting to participate in gun culture, but now they won't be able to. They're severely outgunned compared to their right-wing counterparts. They won't see themselves on equal footing.
Oh, shucks. Is that maybe a thing that we've been warning you about for a decade? Hold
on. Polish John thinks it is an important part of the social code that civilians on both sides of the aisle have access to the same kind of weaponry. And at the moment, the vast majority of high-powered weaponry are still owned by white male conservatives. Quote, it's a cold war against anyone who might do you harm. It's a mere fact of having them. Neither side is going to use them because they both have them.
What? Gosh, this is a revelation. If only I had known.
Yeah. He also says, I would love to see a world without firearms, but it's not a realistic scenario.
Gosh, what? Also, I wouldn't love to see a world without firearms. Have you ever heard of what happens in medieval combat? We found skeletons, man. You don't want that.
Oh.
People have been killing each other.
Ban open carrying battle axes.
Yeah, like we've found what happens, like skeletons that show the evidence of what happens when people don't have firearms, like pre-firearm stuff, right? Like we've seen that. We know what that looks like, and the brutality of medieval combat. All right, if you really want to do that, because that's entirely dependent on strength at that point, and I'm stronger than you, so if you really want to go that route, I mean, I guess.
Shell says if he stops paying credit card bills to tank the credit score, can he get a government subsidy to buy more guns? Yes, Chris laughs and double bearded axe.
Yeah. That's it. Well, those probably didn't actually exist in the middle. Anyway, the important thing is, because when an axe bounces off of something, it comes back at you. So having another blade there is a bad decision.
If Chris were on the show, you can hear the Glock in the background cocking. So, but we're talking. So I'll just go swing with my knife across the screen there.
I can just do this. Okay, that's that one was a little slow. Hang on. There we go. That was a little better.
There you go.
There. I love my karambit. This thing's awesome.
And the snap on the handle. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what you guys get.
Yeah. But either way, loads rock and sling intentionally.
Yeah, if you don't have your rock sling,
loads
your rock
loads
chamber.
Ballista with violent intent.
Anybody know what's the towing capacity of a trebuchet?
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like that's the whole point of a gun, right? Is it's a great equalizer. Like if you go back to the Middle Ages, part of the reason why knights were who they were and were so scary is they had trained with weapons that needed an extreme amount of skill to utilize effectively for their entire lives to figure out how to kill other people.
Yes.
This is what they had done their entire lives. They knew how to do this, which meant that I don't care how, like, you could be a civilian also in armor with a sword somehow, which chances are you couldn't afford, because in the Middle Ages that's like basically the same cost as an entire state anyway. But either way, you could have that and go up against them and you would die in 30 seconds or less. Because they know how to beat you. They have been training their entire lives. They know how to use this stuff, right? I've done some HEMA stuff. I've done some swordplay stuff. I've kind of learned how that is because I'm a historian. So I wanted, and a military historian. So I wanted to learn how some of this stuff was done. But I am not even remotely in the realm of being able to survive more than a half a second against a fucking actual knight, right? Like they're going to kill me, and they're going to kill me really, really fast. The point of a gun and why guns ended the era of knights and the dominance of that and the dominance of things and enabled revolutions on a global scale was that suddenly people who hadn't spent their entire lives training could learn how to effectively defend themselves and how to effectively end their opponents who were possibly the nobility, right? Like that's the whole point of a gun.
What we need is we just need to ban high capacity quivers. We need common sense arrow control.
Dude, there's the funny thing about archery, right? Is like archery is really hard.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard, especially when you're talking about war bows. And we know what war bows look like because like the Mary Rose, right? We recovered a bunch of war bows off of the Mary Rose, actual authentic Tudor, technically not truly medieval, but they're close enough, right? War bows. The draws on some of those are as much as 185 pounds,
which is almost double the weight of some of these leftists.
Can you imagine trying to draw with no training and no experience 180? To put this in perspective, right? Henry's father, Edward, put in a requirement that only
the constables should have war bows.
Yeah. What? Oh. But to put this in perspective, right? There was a law on the books in England at the time that required that all able-bodied males practice with the bow like weekly, right? The draws on these bows are so intense, and that repeated action is so intense that there's a little bone at the end of your collarbone, like, and your shoulder, that is supposed to fuse. And under normal circumstances, that bone fuses to the rest of the bone, right? And serves as this additional anchor. That action prevents that bone from ever fusing. That's how intense that is. It alters your skeleton permanently.
Mm-hmm.
This is how intense that is to be able to fire that thing. And you needed to train with it your entire life to be any good. Again, you needed to train your entire life. This is where guns are different. Is unlike all of these medieval weapons, you don't need to train your entire life to get good with a weapon. I know people who've been training 2 years with a gun and they're damn good. They got talent. Like they can do some shit, right? You can hand a gun to somebody, explain how it's used, and they're not going to be great, but they can defend themselves.
Yeah,
in an emergency.
Even like for example, Post Malone, right? You've seen Post Malone's firearm videos. You've seen him in the shoot houses. You've seen the people that he shoots with and hangs out with. The guy's only been doing this for 2 or 3 years, and he's a phenomenal shot.
If you watch the video of Keanu Reeves,
yeah, at Terran
doing his drills for John Wick, the first movie. He had only like learned what for like a few months.
Yeah.
Like that he had learned this, right?
Yeah, look at Keanu Reeves in John Wick versus Keanu Reeves in The Matrix.
Right. And his gunplay. Like look at how much more precise and deliberate and everything else it is. This is the difference, right? Like this is the difference between firearms and medieval warfare. And this is where the problem comes in, and this is why people should be so concerned about firearms being banned, is because the whole reason that the gentry in Europe wanted to get rid of firearms out of the hands of the average citizen was because that meant that they had the advantage, because they had trained with swords, they had trained with axes, they had trained with all these weapons their entire lives.
Yep.
And the average citizen had not. And even if the average citizen could afford a sword, they didn't know what to do with it.
Yep. It's something that has to be learned. So let's finish this article, and then let's see. It's not realistic. For River Johnson, 23-year-old Asian transgender woman, it's all about self-defense and knowing she can have access to the same kind of weapons so many others already own. She says she grew up in a liberal, wealthy part of the state with parents who were strongly anti-gun, but found her position on firearms shifting over time as, quote, the world was becoming a scary place.
It was quote, always a scary place. You were just insulated.
Yes. Quote, while I've never had to directly defend myself, it feels like things are becoming increasingly harder for people like me. Many of the most radical anti-trans segments of the population are already extremely armed with semi-automatic rifles. This ban will do nothing to mitigate that, besides enabling a continuing divide in those who can effectively protect themselves.
Oh, gosh. It's almost like that's literally what we said.
Yes. Yeah, Matt S., 33, a self-described, quote, lefty Seattle gun owner, who declined to give his full last name, said he was conflicted on the assault weapons ban. He doesn't personally own any assault weapons and isn't convinced that they're more practical than any other firearm when it comes to self-defense. He thinks people's obsession with high-powered guns, quote, revolves around a fantasy that a, quote, shit hits the fan scenario happens. But Matt also articulated an opinion that's often heard from far-left gun owners. He thinks cops should be subject to an assault weapons ban if civilians are. Yeah, I can agree with that. Quote,
seriously?
I'd love to
see
it. Quote, I'd love to see an amendment that applies the ban to police after 5 years or whatever. Meanwhile, some conservative gun owners cited concerns about crime in cities. One Reddit user who declined to give his name at all said that the ban would only make, quote, citizens less defensive and criminals more dangerous, confident, and brazen, knowing that the public doesn't have what they have, all while quote, punishing law-abiding gun owners. As far as whether the ban will spark a backlash or even protest from hardcore gun owners is unclear. There are a few threads on the far-right message board where users have discussed the ban while grumbling about, quote, left-wing tyranny. Others seem more focused on getting the law blocked through the court rather than taking to the street and protest. Stephen Pagot, an expert on the far right and program and analyst with Western States Center, a community organizing racial justice group in the Pacific Northwest, has been monitoring reactions to the bill as it made its way through the legislature. Quote, it could serve as a catalyst for mobilization, but what I'm seeing so far from anti-democracy groups around Washington State and paramilitary groups is that they're much more focused on LGBTQ and drag shows right now.
Oh, gosh. So what you're telling me is that the vulnerable in society need an equalizer, and what you've just done is take it away from them.
We're taking away their ability to equalize.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. They need the equalizer. They need that thing that will give them equal amount of force, and you've taken it away. Gosh, that sounds like something that we've been saying all along. It's almost like suddenly things are clicking.
Yes. Well, it's too late now. You got
and you already pushed for it.
The assault ban passed.
You've been pushing for this. You idiots are the ones that have been pushing for this. You idiots are the ones who have been saying that this is what you need because those terrifying those cis het white males, they're these terrifying people with all these guns, and so we need to ban them. And then now suddenly you're like, oh wait, that ban applies to me too? Yes, it does. Which has been the point the whole time, is that it will apply to you too, and that armed minorities are harder to oppress. Armed citizens in general are harder to oppress, and you guys ignored us and ignored us and ignored us, and now you are reaping what you sowed. And the difference between the two of us is that you will bend and you will bow and you will hand in shit and you will give up, and we will not.
Yes. All right, throw out some links. Let's get out of here.
Buy Derica's book, Think for Yourself, a thinking workbook for beginners. It is a workbook. It is for beginners. It's available for $10 on Amazon. Check it out. Make sure that you read it before you leave a review, please. Because you're probably going to need it based on the reviews that we've seen. Also, if you want to care for your beard like a Viking, go to thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkAnarchist15. You get 15% off, and you support me at the same time. You get to buy all sorts of cool stuff. They have some fantastic shampoos, conditioners for your beard. They have a beard straightener, which is something I keep meaning to get, obviously, if you see how bushy my beard is. They even have stuff for ladies, right? And not for their beards.
Too late. No, it's fine. You don't have to correct that. It's
I'm not here.
It's 2023, Andrew.
I'm not here to judge, man. I'm not here to judge. But yeah, they have all sorts of cool stuff. They have clones, they have perfumes, they have all sorts of cool stuff. They have shampoos for your actual hair. They have soap, they have deodorant, all sorts of cool stuff. Check them out. But use code InkAnarchist15 when you go there. Also, speaking of using discount codes, I am an affiliate of Reaper brand apparel. If you check them out, they are a super awesome company. Their message is super awesome. Their Instagram is incredible. You should definitely follow them. If you use code InkAnarchist10, you get 10% off. If you use the affiliate link, you get 15% off, though. Extra 5% for using the affiliate link. So you should probably do that. And you get all sorts of cool stuff. They have great hoodies. They have great hats. They have all sorts of cool stuff. Also, I'm an affiliate of RK Spookware. If you know who they are, you know what they do. Use the affiliate link and support the channel if you're going to buy anything from them. Also, check out Lions Not Sheep. Again, super awesome message about being a leader, not a follower, about being somebody who is dangerous and not somebody who can be cowed. Also, their t-shirt, Free Man, is one of my favorite t-shirts. I never wear it on the show, really, because it's constantly dirty because I wear it every time I watch it.
Absolutely based owner, too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. He's freaking awesome.
Not sheep. See his videos. You see videos of his podcast on Instagram and TikTok all the time. Just fantastic take on a lot of things.
Oh yeah, he's super awesome. The whole company is great. I'm super happy to be an affiliate of theirs. So make sure that you use the link in the description and you support us. I think you get a discount on it as well if you use the affiliate link. So make sure you do that. Also, who else? Coffee Brand Coffee, yes. The Quartering, Jeremy Quartering has Coffee Brand Coffee. Make sure you check that stuff out. He is an affiliate of Chris's. Again, it's all going to be in our link tree. Check out Dave at Poppins Patches. He makes some super awesome patches that are absolutely fantastic quality and generally tend to be fantastic designs. So, with the lone exception of the one that he did with the eagle, where we're not going to talk about that one. But what's important is that the rest of them are really cool designs.
Dave sent me a pic on Instagram of that logo on a stainless steel card. Yeah.
Anyway, so what's important is, though, that the rest of this stuff, other than that he does, is super cool. And you should check him out. Do we have anybody that I have forgotten?
No, I want to shout out to Anarchist Beauties, Crystal and the girls. They've only put out the introduction episode so far, but they did record yesterday a crypto episode. Crystal and I were talking about it. It was her first time ever hosting a podcast, running a podcast, and she said it was not quite hurting cats, but yeah, so go give her support. And again, I want to say congrats to Chris, our co-host, on another beautiful Anarcho baby. Hashtag outbreed the status.
Yes, exactly. They're certainly trying to keep you from breeding. So
Yes.
if you can outbreed them, you win.
So yes, on that note, you got anything else you want to talk about real quick? You got like a minute.
I don't know. It's I will just point out that hilariously, it will end on a laugh. Lindsay the other day asked me, she's like, if I was a sandwich, what kind of a sandwich would I be? And I had no idea. And I'm like, that's just a stupid question. I have no idea what that would be. But today I realized that the answer is clearly, well, you'd be a peanut butter and banana sandwich because that was a favorite of Elvis and I'm a goddamn rock star.
That was terrible.
Come on, that was funny.
You should feel bad.
I don't at all. That was awesome.
All right, we'll catch you on the next one.